For those of you who don't know me, I'm Dennis LaCaria. I'm the Executive Director of Facilities Management for CMS, and we're really excited to be back here with you this evening to talk about the work that we have been doing at Sedgefield and the work that we are continuing to do at Sedgefield over the balance of this year and through the summer to convert the school to its full Montessori potential. And so with us this evening are folks from our design team, and I'm going to turn over to Alan Hunter to take you through the presentation, and then we'll do Q&A afterwards. Thanks.
Back on? Okay. Good evening. So glad to see you all come out. I am Alan Hunter, and I am joined by my colleague Beth Matthews. We're from WHN, and we are the architects for this Montessori conversion here at Sedgefield. Go to the agenda slide. So tonight we're very excited to be able to present to you some of the amenities and upgrades that we're providing at the school here. We're going to go through the site work first, and then I'm going to turn it over to Beth. She'll go over some of the interior work that we're doing, and then we'll talk about schedule a little bit, and then we'll open it up for questions. So without that, we'll first couple slides here just get you oriented to the school a little bit. This is what the school looked like before we started construction. The front of the school is on the lower left, and then what we call the upper campus is on the top right. And then coming into the school, most of you came in from the main entrance, came to the end of the hallway, took a right, and then we're down here in the area that's called dining and B. And then the upper campus I talked about was out back there. So this is a overall campus plan that shows some of the amenities that we're providing for the Montessori upgrade, and I'll be getting into detail about each one of these pieces. But first, we wanted to acknowledge that we have been listening to your concerns, and we have heard some ideas about what this blue fence might be, but other than an obstruction to keeping your children from the playfield, you probably don't care. So we have some ideas about how to fix that. So getting you back to a plan view, this is the school. The blue area is where the fence currently is. And you can see the area that's removed is where the outbuilding used to be out back in the upper campus. That is now demolished and removed. And we've been working with the contractor to relocate the construction fence and open up some play area for the kids. So we've been able to get a good portion of the back of the play area back. And that's going to be temporary. That should be in place in the next few weeks. By the time they come back in January, this should be the configuration that you come to, and that will stay in place until June. And then move ahead. And then after summer 2025, we'll have the whole campus completed, everything be opened back up again, and operations as normal with all the upgrades for the Montessori school. So getting into some of the other amenities that we are providing, there are some new memorial trees and plantings. You can see a list of some of the trees on the left side here, maples, oaks, hollies, but these are all of the similar species to what you had over at Park Road. So they're a tribute to the Montessori plantings and in keeping with the Montessori concept of extra landscaping. And this is in addition to all the natural landscaping that's already on the campus. These are the playgrounds that are already completed. There's a new playground up front by your entrance drive. There's a renovated playground that's on the right-hand side, just outside of the cafeteria here. And then there's a new renovated playground on the upper campus. And then we've installed picnic tables and around the campus and areas outside the classrooms, between the classrooms. And then in green here, you can see the planter boxes that are coming. They are located on the doors outside of each classroom, so each class would have its own access to a planter bed. And then there's also planter boxes located on the upper campus by the bus lot. Here is a new learning pavilion. It's going at the location where the building that we talked about was demolished and removed. So this is going to be a new learning pavilion at that location. We've got some images of similar installations. Unfortunately, I can't guarantee you the lake view, but we will do our best, I promise. But this is similar to what we're going to be putting in for the learning pavilion. And then in the island across from the playground in the upper campus is where we're going to put in the Peace Garden. So we're relocating the statue and some pavers up into that area, and then re-landscaping that area to provide a walkway and a peaceful area where you can kind of sit and contemplate Montessori. And then at the kind of back at the campus here by Marsh Road, we're relocating the gazebo from Park Road along with some pavers there, so we can kind of capture the rest of the campus and have amenities located throughout the property that you've got here. It's quite large and beautiful. So this is, again, back to the overall plan of the campus when it's completed. We'll have some boards up front here afterwards if you want to come up and take a closer look. But I'm going to turn it over to Beth now to talk about some of the interior upgrades.
All right. Hello, everyone. This slide is similar to what we saw before. This is just an overall plan of the building and where the renovations are. So there's the reception area with the security vestibule, and then we're adding the 2 life skills classrooms. Some other upgrades that we are doing to the building, where you see green, that's where we are adding exterior doors to all of the classrooms. The C wing already has exterior doors, that's why you don't see anything there. We will also be painting the school. There's going to be new signage. There are some heating, ventilation, and air conditioning is what HVAC is. Upgrades that are going to be happening, and then new LED lighting throughout the school. All right, so the security vestibule, it might be kind of hard to see, but at the lower right-hand corner of the plan, kind of that pink color, that is the security vestibule. So that piece of the lobby, we are going to be enclosing in a ballistic resistant glazing. And then the doors, new doors for entering and exiting the classroom. Also the reception area and the parent center will have to be tweaked a little bit just to accommodate some new doors coming in and out to make the security vestibule work. And then the health room is going to get new finishes. So this is just a diagram of how the security vestibule is going to work. So at the number 1, that is where a visitor will enter. They will enter through that left-hand door. They will, at 2, there is a pass-through window, and at that point they will communicate with the receptionist. If they are okay to come in, then they will be routed through the number 3, that door, into the reception area. And from the reception area, they can either come back out into the school, or their child will be called for them to pick up, or whatever reason they need to be in the school. This is what these life skills classrooms are going to provide. So we're going to have a refrigerator, dishwasher, stove, washer, dryer, and utility sink. This is just a basic illustration of what these classrooms are going to be. And the schedule. So we are currently, we have the first part, all the work that you have been watching so far this year. That work, of course, has been permitted and is moving forward. The next piece, which are the areas that I just outlined to you, that is has been approved, and the permit needs to be picked up. And so we anticipate that work starting potentially maybe over the Easter break, but certainly it's all going to take place this summer. Let's see, Learning Pavilion, Peace Garden, Pagoda, those are all, that's exterior work that can be happening because it's up above on the upper campus, will be happening, can happen during the school year. And then the administration life skills, as I said, that's when that work will be taking place, June and July of 25.
Thank you, Beth. We can come back to any other slides you want to look at, but we can open it up to questions at this time.
It's going to be the same thing. Mike's going to walk around with a microphone so that your voice can be picked up by the recording as well. So.
You got it. Okay. So, question. I've got a couple, but I'll just start with one, and we can go let others, and I'll come back. So, are the permits done for the pagoda? So in the sense, we tore down in June, and it was down in June, and so we've sat for 6 months with no permits for it?
That's a little bit of a loaded question. We have permit for the overall building. The way that it works with that pagoda particularly, it's a series of shop drawings that have to get submitted by the contractor, then we review them, and then they would go back in under the overall permit. So we do have the permit for all the work. It's been permitted and reviewed by the county. There's just some technicalities about specifics to that piece of structure that is done by the contractor.
And I think the other thing to note is that we had an original design that was permitted and ready to go, and there were modifications that were made at the school's request. So we had to go in for something that's called an RTAP, so a change to the permit. So if we were building what we had originally designed when we set out and did that work, we would already be done in the back. However, because we heard from the community and there were changes that we wanted to make here at the school to the way the placement for the memorial garden and those things laid out, we had to go back through the permitting process. So that's part of what slowed us as well.
So are the permits done? So are all the permits done?
Everything has been submitted. We don't have all of the permits back yet.
So if the permits, as soon as the permits are finalized, then we will start building?
That's correct.
So is there something then that we can do to advocate and get those permits through faster through the county and the city?
Encourage more people to go to work for Mecklenburg County and the city of Charlotte. It's a horsepower thing, and unfortunately, we get treated like every other developer in town. There's no cuts to the front of the line because we're Charlotte-Mecklenburg Schools. So we go through the same process on the same timeline as every other person who's going in for permits for anything and everything in the county.
So, but there's multi-steps to those permits, and so do we know where it's stuck in the permit so we can advocate? Because this, the blue fence is a major issue for us, and the quicker that we can reduce that even.
So we are reducing the fence.
Yes.
But he said like by January.
By January.
Or like when we come back from,
Well,
that's
the
lots of
fence, the
dates.
fencing will move in December. So the fencing will move in December. You will have the additional play field available to you sometime between now and the end of the calendar year, although we may need to do some remediation work when the fencing moves that may delay full access until the kids are back from winter break. But we are moving, and we are moving swiftly to relocate the fencing to provide the additional space.
And a little more detail, we can talk about it more afterwards if you want to, but the way the permit works, all the work has to be completed before they will close out the permit. So that does include some work that happens across the field next summer for some underground utilities, as well as some of the interior work for the classrooms and things. They're all, it's one permit that's kind of phased, so we're expediting it as best we can.
So for C building, they do have the doors there, but there is no like garden space or like natural area like right outside those doors. Are there any plans to put like planter boxes? I saw like the other buildings had those, but I didn't notice if C building had any of that.
Do you want to go back to that slide?
Yeah, let me go back. So, well, this is one that depicts the doors. And maybe this one is a good one to talk about that. So the C-wing was originally the lower grade, which is why they already had exterior doors. And they have enclosed areas outside each classroom that secure the children so they can go outside and play. Right now, we don't have additional planter boxes for those specific rooms. But there are additional planter boxes in the areas between the wings as well as on the upper classroom. So I think the intent is for every classroom to have their own planter box. It just may not be directly outside of their door on that side of C-wing. But they are.
It's something we can look at from the standpoint, as long as we're not blocking the egress there and making sure that we can maintain accessibility, we can certainly get a couple more planter boxes and put them out there. So I think that's something we're happy to look at and evaluate, just so long as, like I said, we're not causing some sort of conflict, in the event of a fire and we have to get kids out of the building sort of thing. But we can absolutely look at that. There's not an issue with us getting additional planter boxes.
And they are portable.
Following on to her question about the planter boxes on C-Wing, I can speak as a person teaching on the C-Wing. We would like planter boxes, and our little friends are young and have short legs and should not be walking way far away at this point in their lives to get to planter boxes. So I hear what you're saying about egress and safety, but I will speak as a representative for my team. We would like them outside of our building as well.
Got it. Thanks.
As another teacher that's on C-Wing, but we're on the back side. Sorry, D, not C. We would like them for that lower out, not just in the middle, because it is a very long walk for us as well. And once we get outdoor doors, we'd like to be able to garden directly outside of our room. So wherever there's outdoor doors, I'm sure everyone would appreciate planter boxes.
Totally fair.
So another question that's not been sort of answered in this is, while you're getting picnic tables out into the space, it's direct sun because there's no shade or natural sorts of places. And so teachers right now have already said that they're hesitant to put any use of that because things get extremely hot. So what are you doing for shade to, like, whether it be sunscreens, trees, something to make that space actually usable? So it doesn't matter if we have 50 picnic tables out there if they're never used because it's too hot for kids to go there.
That's a fair question. I mean, our standard is not to do sunshades for a variety of reasons, but it's definitely something that we can take a look at. I don't know whether there's really an opportunity to do any plantings there, but the other thing is to also look at whether or not there might be a better place to locate the picnic tables, right? So just because we have a plan doesn't mean that, you know, those things have to stay there permanently either. So as we have access to the balance of the site, and I think that's kind of what Alan's trying to show here, there's certainly an opportunity to move elements around as well if they make more sense. So I think all of that stuff is good feedback for us and things that we can absolutely look at.
And if you look between the upper two wings, there are already some shade structures. There's some umbrellas out there that can be relocated, moved around as the sun moves, and there could be more.
Can we get more? Like, can we consider that?
We can consider that.
Hi, I know this has probably already been addressed in meetings that I'm not a part of, but for instance, I don't know what wing I'm in. What wing is my daughter's class in? She D or C? But it's a dead zone for cell phones, and that worries me as a parent. Like, with the other parent trying to join, he called 8 times, he couldn't get in the building. But in case there's ever an emergency, and I know this might be a Verizon thing, this might be our ceiling. I know that it's been addressed and talked about, but is there something they can look to do to make sure that phone calls can be made out due to emergencies, phone calls can be made in to teachers due to family emergencies, because heaven forbid something horrible happens and you can't call for, it just makes me want to have self-service, not for the kids, but for adults to be able to communicate.
You looking me to answer that one?
Go for it.
There should be cell service throughout the school. Usually there's repeaters that carry the signal throughout the school, so we can look at that. We might even have the team here on site that could look at that, but we will. There should be service provided throughout the school. That's the intent. So if it's not happening, we'll take note of that. And
my son's school does not have cell service. I mean, it's in C-Wing. It's not have cell service.
We will take a look at that. Yep.
So I have another question around the playgrounds are supposedly renovated now, is that correct? So that they have been renovated? What are they aged for? Because I have kids in several different classes who have gotten injuries because of some of the equipment is used for children that are a little larger than traditional elementary school, and so they've hit stuff and things, they've hit, bars and things like that. And so I'm just curious, what's the age for each of the playgrounds?
So our standard is basically a pre-K, K2, and a 3-5 playground. So that's our standard. And so we would look to those being used by students in each of those age groups appropriately. So we would, I'll talk to you afterwards if you want, so I can get a little bit more specifics and some details on that, so we can.
So relative to what we had last year at Park Road, for the upper L, relative to what we had last year,
Right.
it's a significantly downgrade, a significant downgrade. How can we, again, fix that while we are part of the budgeting process and things like that?
So again, what you're seeing here is sort of what's at standard. So this is what we provide as a standard, and I think some of the things that we saw at Park Road were provided by parents and others over time, right? And so that's different from our standard. So we've got to try and deal in our standard and making sure that everybody is getting more or less the same sort of thing. But this is definitely something we can take a look at. But I'd like to hear more separately about what. Yeah.
But to be clear, but from an equity standpoint, just understanding
Right.
that is not allowed at this point to provide, so that we could not do a capital campaign.
Oh, the school can absolutely, if the school wanted to provide additional amenities, it's no different than anywhere else, right? So I mean, if the PTA wanted to do something to expand on what's here or whatever, absolutely, and we can coordinate those activities because we are here, absolutely.
Okay. Thanks.
In regards to the LED changeover, will there be controls in the classroom for the teachers to be able to turn them off or dim them appropriately for the different learning styles that they use?
I believe that the LED conversion was to take the existing fixtures in the housing and put in new LEDs. So what we have traditionally is a zone in each classroom. So there's usually a front zone for the teaching wall, and then another zone for the general classroom area. So you can usually control lighting in that fashion, but I don't believe that we're adding rheostats to the new fixtures, with dimmers.
At this point in the year, how confident are you guys feeling about the timeline to have all the construction completed next August? I know it would be so lovely to just open with a fresh school year and not have construction behind us.
We're on schedule, and everything looks like it's going to be on track. I mean, we understand that there's students coming back and they don't wait, so we make an extra effort to make sure we're staying on time, and same thing with on budget. It goes hand in hand.
Just responding to you saying like students coming back. Well, there's also students that aren't coming back. We have a lot of fifth graders. This is their last year. Sixth graders, definitely their last year. And so to have this kind of, ask Nurse Sabrina how the increase of injuries on the playground and the blacktop and how it's impacted their recess, and that's their one time. The Montessori is so about outside and doing all these things and getting those wiggles out, and these kids are small and they need it, and to have that open green space, obviously if we move the fence, you'll have a little bit more. If the teachers are allowed to even go around the fence, which will be out of view from the building, I don't know how receptive people will be to that, or if everyone will be fine with doing that. So not everyone will be back next year. And so we don't want a whole year of the kids having this half put together school experience.
Understood. And we're trying to adjust to the extent that we can and keep the work on track. So that's always what's in tension, right? We're trying to get to the final outcome as quickly as we can, as elegantly as we can, with the minimal impacts, but recognizing that when you're, if you're renovating your house and your kitchen's gone, you have to figure out what's for dinner somewhere else, right? So it's just part of the process. And so we have been working through this permitting process to try and figure out what we could give back. And we're comfortable with what we can give back and have the additional green space for the kids for the balance of the year. And we're moving as swiftly as we can, so that none of this is about, if we can turn something over sooner, if there's opportunity to get done faster and get fencing down sooner, we're all about that. Nobody has got any brakes on anything, and we're ready to go as soon as we have the green light and permits in hand.
Obviously, the outdoor classroom is the big project that we're waiting on, but for the Peace Garden and the Memorial Sanctuary, are those things that we're still waiting on permit for those? I know they've been taken down and they're here, and when they were put, I was not around for the Peace Garden installation, but I was around for the Memorial installation, and that just like showed up. There wasn't like a big to-do. It wasn't like a giant fence that was there for 5 years. It just got put up within a week. And so is that something are we still waiting on permits for that, or are we just waiting to do it all at the same time?
Some of it is just construction sequencing. Basically, sometimes planting, you can't put it in the wintertime. It's not going to stay and it's not going to grow and live. But we also have, like I said, a kind of a overall construction plan where the contractor has to come in and mobilize, and student safety does come first. I wish we could just put everything somewhere else and let them use it and then come in overnight and it would pop up. But the reality is that we do need to have the contractor on site. He needs places to work and lay down his work, and then have his forces come in and install things. And that sequencing comes in. It's not all held up in permitting. It's also just timing of getting things installed in a safe manner.
Can you tell us more about the landscaping or the plants that you're planning on putting into the gardens? Maybe
might be a good time to flip over
native
the
garden,
boards.
or something that's meaningful versus just standard
Maybe when we're done,
plants.
if you want to come up, we've got boards that detail
Okay.
the actual civil landscape boards, and they call out the different
Plant lists and
species.
everything?
Yeah, there's a
Oh,
plant
great.
list, so you
And was that thought out with
The school.
purpose, or is it just standard
No,
landscaping
we've been
plants?
working with the school completely for, Candace, how long have we been talking to the school about? Right, so.
Wonderful. That's so
Right.
great to hear.
Yes, so we've been working very, very closely with the school and the
Okay.
staff and the parents and everybody and getting the feedback. And so we've incorporated all of that feedback, and that's been part of the thing about like the change in the direction and the timelines for the permit, is because we're trying to be responsive and we're trying to give the school community what they're asking for, and just recognizing that if you're going down a path and you decide to change, sometimes it's not as simple or easy as you'd like it to be, but it's all been in the service of trying to be as responsive as we can and give the school as much of what they want and what they need in order to be a successful, thriving Montessori program here when we're done.
Aside from the planter boxes that were at Park, or that are going to be here, I know at Park Road Montessori, the teachers kind of had their own individual garden spaces. They weren't just like a standard, here, plant some vegetables or plant some flowers. Like, there was one that had like a little pond area. There was, another teacher that had these vining plants, and they were all very individual to the teachers. So are they going to be kind of, or will they have a little bit more control over their outdoor green spaces?
Yeah, so there's no intent to say everybody has to do the same thing, right? And there's no intent to say that you're limited to these planter boxes in these particular places. That's not at all the intent. The intent was to honor the requests that we got, set things up, and then recognize that as you grow, as you go, you're gonna dig in the dirt. You're gonna be planting in the ground. Other things are going to be happen. There are gonna be changes and modifications as you go, but it's what did we want to start off with and how did we want to start off, and then take it from here and go.
Okay, cool.
I would love to see this campus turn into what Park Road did, but that's just aged out at this point. But a lot of the things you talked about, the koi pond and things, were brought in by private PTO funds and labor.
The outdoor classroom, is there going to be like boards and seating in there, or like just what your picture showed? Like, to me, is it going to be like an actual classroom where they can like do some projects and like maybe have some water access or whatever? There'll be more than just a ceiling?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Whiteboards, everything that this lady asked for, she's getting. So There's water there, and that's part of our work too, because the water lines are actually in the ground. So in order to tap all of that, they literally run through that area because they were serving that building. So all of that is part of the work that we're doing. And again, why the fence has to be where it is to a certain extent, because we're digging up underground utilities too.
So that would be also like water and power, that would have power access as well, which would kind of enhance our outdoor event capabilities?
No, it's not going to have power.
Right. No, it currently does not have power, but it has water, right? Because we're looking at a daytime use Monday through Friday. Certainly something we can evaluate. I mean, it's not a no, obviously, right? You know, there are ways to get power to it. It's just, again, does it slow us down? Does it shake us off course? Do we finish it the way it is now and then maybe go do some power later? I think those are the sorts of things that we've got to explore.
So this is kind of a double question. So right now we have beginnings in school. When the new Park Road is built, as those classrooms then fall back into that school, what is the plan, and are there any modifications that have to be done, or what is the use of those 3 classrooms from a capital perspective of like what might we have to do, or is there anything planned?
There's not really. It's just additional classroom space for Sedgefield Montessori to use, right? And so however those things get used, they could be used as tutor rooms. We could decide to grow the class, the school size. There are a lot of options, but from our perspective, you know, they become part of the classroom inventory here for the principal and the staff to program as they wish.
And then similar to another question, what is the timeline for the Park Road School in the sense of when we've seen a 26, so I guess we're going 25, 26 next year, so the 26, 27 school year, with the legacy campus still not torn down, things like that, are you actually going to hit that?
We will. Yeah, we're very confident. The demolition of the old Park Road building is getting ready to happen very, very, very soon. We've gotten everything done that we needed to do to move ahead with the demolition, so it's going to get pretty aggressive out there pretty quick.
Related to his question, are you guys still saving the trees at the old campus?
We have a whole plan that we actually shared that you can watch, because we just did the meeting there with those folks around the school community kickoff and talked about specifically, yes, the work that we're doing to not only preserve certain trees, but also to enhance the landscaping and doing some other things with the planting and urban forestry and things like that. So there's a lot of work that's being done to preserve, enhance, and adapt. We did a lot of work about where we had to get a zoning variance, in fact, to build the school where we wanted to build the school to minimize the damage to the natural layout of that campus. So we did a lot of work in order to try and preserve as much as we could. Well, if there are no other on-the-record questions, we're happy to hang out. We'll turn these boards around so you can look at things a little more closely, answer whatever other questions you have. We really, really, really appreciate all of your support through and patience through all of this, and we're looking forward to having everything turned over at the end of this summer. Thanks.